Hello! Our annual radish and turnip episode has been postponed from the spring crop to the fall crop. Instead of filming that episode, we used the budget to help persecute the BP executives for fucking up the Gulf of Mexico. The radishes and turnips died in a grease fire. I was invited to speak at a famous college on the benefits of home gardening. I was detained for lewd behavior involving inanimate objects. I was on a week-long drinking binge and couldn't go 2 hours without pissing myself. I spent the week with a call girl named Edward. Hello there! Welcome to the 2010 season of James's Garden. My name is James, and this is my garden. Cheers. You remember how small my tomato plants were at the beginning of the season? Well, look at them now. I've just only started harvesting them, and in a couple weeks I'll have so many tomatoes it'll be like La Tomatina in Buñol, Spain. I've planted 2 small varieties, cherry and grape tomatoes, to use as fresh snacks. I've also got 2 other plants that are medium-sized tomatoes, a Roma plant and a Better Boy plant. And these tomatoes are great sliced up in salads. I've also got 1 large-sized tomato. This is Cherokee Purple, and this is great just sliced fresh on sandwiches. My peppers are also doing well. I've planted 4 sweet varieties as well as 1 spicy variety, a jalapeno. But there are many different varieties of peppers and tomatoes out there, and I suggest that you try at least 1 new variety each growing season so that you can start to fully appreciate the diversity of textures and flavors out there that you just won't find in your local mega grocery. As you can see, I've already harvested and pulled up the first green bean crop of the season. What I did is I sowed the seeds directly into the soil in 2 double rows between the peppers and the tomatoes. I did this because at the time, the tomato and pepper plants were so small that the green bean seedlings would not have to compete for sun or soil nutrients with these plants until they got bigger as they are now. But by this time, the green beans had already provided several mini harvests, and I just pulled the whole plant out of the ground. But don't throw those green bean plants away. Green beans, along with other legumes, actually pull free nitrogen from the atmosphere with the help of a special bacteria that lives around their roots. This is known as nitrogen fixation. So when these plants decompose, they can provide tons of natural nitrogen fertilizer to your compost pile. Cool beans? Yeah, cool beans. Now, being my first year planting corn, I'm still happy with the fact that half the seeds I sowed turned into full-grown plants. Now, although there aren't enough stalks to support my cucumber and snow pea plants in the Native American Three Sisters style as I had hoped, those plants are still doing well, trailing on the ground or up the fence. This does bring us to my next topic of conversation. You see, there is a dark side to gardening. It's not all fun and games, and this is something that compassionate gardeners like myself have a hard time talking about openly. See, what I'm talking about is thinning. You have to sow more seeds than the ground can handle so that you have enough plants to make it to the harvest time. Some seeds might not sprout, and those that do, they might get eaten by animals or get a disease. You have to sow enough seeds to make sure you have enough for harvest time. And those plants that... Hey, are you trying to... Yeah. And those seedlings that do sprout, but grow a little slower than the others or a little too close together, well, they have to be sacrificed. For example, each of these big zucchini once had a small companion seedling at the beginning of the year growing next to them, but we're gonna have a little place. We're gonna have a cow and some pigs, and maybe a chicken. Down in the flat, we'll have a field of alfalfa for the rabbits.
You kidding?
Many seedlings died to bring us this information. Admiral Akbar, please. Vegetable gardening can be an extremely rewarding experience, especially when you succeed in growing a new vegetable that you haven't grown before. Why, I admit that sometimes I can become quite attached to these plants after watching them grow from seed to maturity. Maturity. Well, that's just about all the time we have here today on James's Garden. Be sure to try out new varieties of vegetables each year, and don't be afraid to spread your seed out and thin out the seedlings later. Stay tuned for Doyleology with Clementine, and thank you for joining me here today in James's Garden.